You are in the most intimate moment two human beings can share. You are as close to her as physically possible. And somewhere underneath everything happening in that room, underneath all of it, there is a question you have never once said out loud. What is she actually feeling right now? Not what she is showing you, not what she says afterward. What is genuinely happening inside her body and her mind in that specific moment you are both together. You have wondered this your entire life. Every man has, and nobody, not your father, not any conversation you have ever had, not anything you ever watched or read, nobody has ever sat you down and told you the truth about it until right now. What I'm about to share is the conversation that should have happened decades ago. The biological truth about what she is actually experiencing the moment you enter her world completely. The neurochemical reality of what is happening inside her that she herself may never have had the language to explain to you, and what understanding all of this means for every intimate moment you have from this day forward. You are not failing her because you did not care. You care enormously. Every man I have worked with in 12 years of clinical practice cares deeply. You were failing to reach the full depth of what those moments could be because nobody ever gave you the biological truth about what is actually happening on her side. That absence ends today. My name is Dr. Narita, a board-certified urologist with 12 years of clinical experience working with men's health, intimate function, and the biology that underlies everything we are about to discuss. If this kind of honest, clinically grounded content is what you have been missing, subscribe right now and turn on your notifications. Every week, I bring you the truth about men's health and intimate well-being that you deserve. Stay with me, because what comes next is the most important thing anyone has ever told you about the woman you love. Here is the first thing most men have completely wrong, and it is the misunderstanding that quietly shapes every intimate encounter that follows. Most men experience the moment of entry as a beginning, the start of what they have been building toward. For her, that moment is something far more complex. It is a culmination and a neurological event and a trust transaction all happening simultaneously. Whether that moment becomes what it is genuinely capable of being depends almost entirely on what happened in the minutes before it and on one quality in you that has nothing to do with physical performance. I want you to meet David, 61 years old, married to the same woman for 32 years. He came to my clinic not because anything was clinically wrong, but because something had quietly shifted in their intimate life. His wife was present, but not fully there. Encounters felt functional, but rarely profound. He assumed it was age. He was wrong. What David was experiencing was the consequence of a gap in understanding nobody had ever filled for him. By the end of our conversation, everything shifted. Today, I am giving you exactly what I gave David. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part that changes everything. What is happening in her body before you even make your move? Long before you reach the moment of entry, her body has already begun a preparation sequence that most men have never had explained to them. It starts not in her body, in her brain. When a woman begins to experience genuine desire, not obligation, not habit, but real desire rooted in feeling safe and genuinely wanted, her parasympathetic nervous system activates. This is the branch of the autonomic nervous system responsible for safety, rest, and openness. It begins driving increased blood flow toward the pelvic region, in a vascular response that is the biological engine of everything that follows. Think of it as a power grid coming online. One circuit activates the next. Each system comes up in sequence until the full architecture of her arousal is operational. And here is what most men do not realize. That grid cannot be rushed without consequences that both of you will feel, but neither of you will be able to name. As blood flow increases, the internal clitoral complex, not the small external point most people are aware of, but a full internal architecture of sensitive tissue extending along both sides of the vaginal canal, becomes engorged with blood. This engorgement dramatically amplifies the sensitivity of every nerve ending in the region. Her body is not just warming up, it is becoming a completely different sensory environment than it was 60 seconds before. Simultaneously, the vaginal walls begin producing natural lubrication through a process called transudate. Fluid literally pressed through the vaginal walls by increased blood pressure in surrounding tissue. This is not something she decides. This is her body producing the biological conditions for connection in response to the neurological signal that something meaningful is happening between you. And here is the piece most men have genuinely never heard. A process called vaginal tenting occurs. The upper portion of the vaginal canal lengthens and expands. The cervix lifts as the uterus rises slightly within the pelvis. Her body is making internal space for you, creating room in a way that nothing else in her physiology does for anyone else. That process is not mechanical. It is biological trust made physical. The pelvic floor musculature begins to progressively relax as arousal deepens. But this relaxation is not automatic. It requires the specific neurological conditions of genuine unhurried arousal. A woman whose nervous system has not fully arrived at safety and readiness will not have released this musculature regardless of how willing she appears externally. Her body will not pretend otherwise, no matter what her words are saying. This entire sequence takes between 15 and 45 minutes for most women. For women in their 50s and 60s, hormonal changes mean this process requires more time, not less. More patience, more presence, more of exactly what a man at this stage of life is more capable of offering than he has ever been. The urgency many men over 60 carry around maintaining an erection. The quiet anxiety that the window might close creates pressure to move quickly that directly works against everything her body is trying to complete. When a man rushes this process, he is, without knowing it, ensuring a less profound experience than the same encounter could have produced. Biology does not negotiate with urgency. It rewards presence every single time. Everything I just described, every biological step of that preparation sequence, exists for one reason. And what happens in the 60 seconds after it completes either honors everything her body just did or wastes it entirely. Here is what she is, actually experiencing the moment you enter. What she actually experiences the moment you enter. When entry occurs in a body that has completed this preparation sequence, the experience for a woman is neurologically and psychologically layered in ways that go far beyond what most men have imagined. The moment of initial entry activates the dense concentration of nerve endings at the vaginal entrance and the engorged internal tissue simultaneously. Every nerve structure that generates the most intense sensation is now fully sensitized and fully alive, in a way that is only possible after the complete arousal sequence has run its course. Entry into a fully prepared body and entry into a body that has been rushed are not the same experience. They are not even close. And she has felt that difference every single time, even when she never said so. The sensation she experiences is not simply physical contact. It is what many women describe as grounding, a settling, something that centers rather than simply stimulates, a deep, distributed sensory experience engaging her entire internal landscape at once. Many women have felt this their entire intimate lives and had no clinical language for what it actually was. Now you do. Then neurochemistry happens. And this is the moment I need every man watching to hold on to, because this single biological fact explains something you have felt your entire intimate life without ever having language for it. At the moment of entry during a desired, safe, emotionally connected encounter, her brain releases oxytocin. You may have heard this called the bonding hormone. What that phrase does not capture is what oxytocin actually produces at the precise moment of its release. This is not a metaphor. This is a documented, measurable biological event, a surge of a specific neurochemical producing a specific emotional state. The sense of being fully met by another person, of a gap between two separate human beings being bridged in a way that feels simultaneously physical and emotionally complete. The difference you have felt between intimacy that moved you and intimacy that did not was not in your imagination. It was chemistry. It was this. Leave a comment right now and tell me, has anyone ever explained this to you before? Because in 12 years of clinical practice, most men tell me nobody has. And that gap has cost more relationships more depth than almost anything else I see professionally. The oxytocin surge is amplified by emotional safety, by genuine connection, by feeling truly desired rather than simply needed. A man who is genuinely present, genuinely attentive, genuinely invested in her experience is creating physiological conditions in her body that produce considerably richer sensation than the identical physical act performed by a man who is distracted or hurried. Emotional presence is not a courtesy. It is a physiological prerequisite for her full experience. What she is actually trusting you within that moment. The physical vulnerability of being entered by another person has no male equivalent. None. To allow another person into your body requires trust. Not the general trust of a long relationship, but the specific moment-by-moment trust of complete physical openness with someone larger and physically stronger than you. The pelvic floor muscles, which in their resting state are protective and closed, have to actively release and open. This does not happen when trust is absent. Her body knows the difference between safe and unsafe at a level far beneath conscious thought. For women in their 50s and 60s, this vulnerability carries an additional layer men rarely consider. The physical changes of aging often arrive alongside cultural messages, suggesting those changes make her less worthy of desire, less worth seeing. She has absorbed those messages whether she has ever said so or not. When you approach this moment with genuine, specific expressed desire for her as she actually is, this body, this age, this woman, the effect on her nervous system is profound. It tells her body at a biological level that it is safe to be open, and a body that receives that signal is capable of experiencing depths of pleasure that a defended self-conscious body simply cannot access regardless of anything else you do. When you come to this moment with genuine presence, you are not simply making her feel good emotionally. You are creating the neurological conditions under which her body can be fully open, fully responsive, and fully capable of experiencing everything the encounter can offer. The man who understands this has an advantage that no technique and no physical attribute can replicate. But understanding is only half of it. What you do in the specific moments that follow is where the difference is actually made. And most men get the next part wrong in a way that is completely fixable the moment you know what to look for. What she needs from you once you are there, she needs pace first. The initial entry must be slow, not timid, anatomically deliberate. Beginning slowly, gentle and shallow at first, deepening gradually over 1 to 3 minutes, gives her body the time to respond to each new increment with appropriate relaxation and expanded arousal. Beginning too fast compresses a process designed to unfold incrementally. It reduces a continuous layered experience to a single binary event. That reduction costs both of you something real that neither of you can fully name afterward. She needs your attention second. Her breath is your most reliable real-time guide. Deepening rhythmic breath tells you her arousal is building positively. Held or shallow tense breath tells you something needs to slow down. The woman who reaches for you and moves to meet your movements is communicating with perfect clarity. The woman who becomes still or creates subtle distance is communicating with equal clarity. This requires only one thing, that your attention is genuinely directed toward her rather than toward your own sensations or performance monitoring. The shift toward attending primarily to her responses is the single most impactful change most men can make. The urgency and performance anxiety of younger male sexuality naturally narrows attention inward. The greater experience and reduced performance pressure of sexuality in the 60s and beyond opens the possibility of genuine outward attentiveness that younger men simply cannot access yet. Your age is not a disadvantage here. It is the specific advantage that makes the intimate presence she has always needed more available to you now than at any earlier point in your life. She needs your consistency. Third, as she approaches the peak of her experience, the nerve pathways producing the building response lock into the specific stimulation they are receiving. Any significant change in pace, depth, angle, or pressure in the final approach disrupts that pattern and can eliminate the response that was building. When she communicates, she is close. Maintain exactly what you are doing without variation. Do not speed up. Do not change angle. Do not introduce novelty. This is one of the most common and most consequential mistakes men make. Changing technique at precisely the moment when consistency is the only thing required. Why what happens after matters as much as what happens during her experience of intimacy does not end at the moment of climax or physical separation. Oxytocin remains elevated in the period immediately following. This is the period of greatest emotional openness and vulnerability in the entire intimate experience. It is also the period women most consistently describe as the one in which they feel most or least connected to their partner, depending entirely on his behavior in those minutes. A man who remains present after intimacy, who does not immediately disengage or reach for his phone, who allows the warmth to continue for even a few unhurried minutes, is telling her nervous system in the language it understands most clearly. You are safe here. This connection is real, and you were not simply needed for a physical purpose. That message delivered consistently shapes the depth of her trust and openness in every subsequent intimate encounter. The inverse is equally powerful. The man who disengages immediately teaches her nervous system over time to protect itself from the vulnerability of full intimate openness. It creates a gradual closing that both partners feel and that progressively reduces the quality of connection between them, often without either person identifying exactly what changed or when. The ability to remain still and present and warmly connected after intimacy is an expression of exactly the kind of emotional maturity that women at this stage of life consistently identify as the most important quality in an intimate partner. This is not something younger men can easily offer. It is something you have developed through decades of living. Use it deliberately now. David came back to my clinic 4 months later, not with a medical concern. He sat down and said something I have never forgotten. He said she cried afterward last week, not from sadness. She said she felt seen in a way she had not felt in years, and she did not know how to explain why it felt different. I knew why. Because you told me. He had not changed anything dramatic. He simply brought understanding to what had always been happening. He slowed down. He kept his attention on her rather than his own experience. He stayed present afterward, and his wife felt it not as performance, not as effort, but as the genuine presence of a man who finally understood what she had always needed him to know. That is what understanding does. It does not make you more impressive. It makes you more real. And real consistently, quietly, genuinely real is what she has always been reaching for. Even in the moments when she could not name what was missing, your partner's experience of intimacy is physiologically, neurochemically, and psychologically profound in ways she may never have had the clinical language to explain. Her body requires a specific sequence of preparation that cannot be rushed. The moment of entry triggers a documented neurochemical event amplified by your emotional presence. Her vulnerability in that moment is real and conscious, and your presence, not your performance. Your presence is the biological prerequisite for her full experience. She needs pace. She needs your attention. She needs your consistency at the right moment. And she needs you present afterward in a way that honors what the intimacy created between you. The man who brings all of this is not performing technique. He is genuinely present with another human being in one of the most neurologically rich experiences available to two people. He is offering the attentiveness that produces the deep, cumulative intimacy that long-term partners are genuinely capable of, but that most couples never fully access because nobody ever gave them this understanding. What I have described today is what genuinely present intimate partnership looks like after 60. Not impressive athleticism, not elaborate technique, genuine understanding, emotional presence, and the specific attentiveness that allows a woman to be fully herself, fully open, and fully met in the moments that matter most. That combination does not require youth. It does not require anything you do not already have. It requires only the understanding you now carry and the choice to bring it into the moments that matter. David found it at 61. You found it today. I am Dr. Narita, a board-certified urologist with 12 years of clinical experience. If today gave you something genuinely new, something that shifts how you show up for your partner, do 3 things right now. Hit the like button because it helps more men find this content at the moment they most need it. Leave a comment and tell me what part of today changed your thinking the most. I read every single one, and your responses shape what I create for this community every week. And share this video with one man in your life who deserves to understand this, because this is the conversation nobody is having with him, and somebody should. That somebody is you. Subscribe with notifications, because every week I am here with the honest, clinically grounded content on men's health and intimate well-being that you deserve. You are not at the end of your most meaningful, intimate years. You are, if you choose to be, at the beginning of your most present ones. That man, the one who finally understands what she has always been feeling, is who you became today.